Hello everyone, welcome to an analysis of dance where we discuss the movements and debuts of the Billboard dance charts in immaculate detail with in-depth reviews of each debut each week. Man, isn't it nice to be able to predict what's actually going to debut here and get some welcome surprises alongside that for an actual good week? I mean seriously, after two really rough weeks for these charts, it's really nice to get probably one of the best weeks in terms of quality of debuts that I've covered in the history of this series, and with some welcome surprises that I didn't expect at all. Yeah, this week turned out really damn good and I'm really excited to talk about it. And things actually get pretty interesting with our top 10, and even if Miles on It by Marshmello and Kane Brown has now hit a full year on the top at number 1, it's actually in pretty considerable danger right now. I mean, it's being outstreamed by several songs even on Hot Dance, and radio is only going to hold on to it for so long. I really hope it gets dethroned soon. And in terms of songs that could actually do it, there is a competition right beneath it, with the Dave's Notion remix by Crystal at number 2, where out of nowhere, thanks to the changing of the seasons, most likely it got a big rebound on streaming and actually managed to rebound to the Hot 100. And again, it's above Miles on It in that format. If it had any radio support, it might have had a clear shot at actually being a hit. That's really telling. And man, I'm not complaining that it's still managing to push down Paso Bem Solto by Atlas down to number 3. And really with this one, it's not exactly going to do all that much in terms of momentum. It's got great streaming, but again, it's a novelty track. I don't really see it getting any higher. Thank God for that. And that same deal applies to Montegem Tormata by Mozzie at number 4, except the streaming is worse here. Again, it's proven to not really have that much success worldwide in comparison to Paso Bem Solto, and I'm absolutely not complaining about that. Although, let's be real, the only reason it jumped is because of the complete collapse of Forever Young by David Guetta, Alphaville, and Ava Max down to number 5. Not surprising given that the streaming is crap and really the fans have moved on to better songs from Guetta, and with this being not very good on radio still, I don't expect it will stick around much longer in the top 5, and good riddance for that. And more excitingly, it can actually open up the door for Neverender by Justice and Tame Impala up to number 6, where the radio is still really big on this one as it comfortably hit the top 30 on Pop Airplay, and streaming is good enough. I expect this to stick around for a very long time, thank God. But what's not welcome is the sudden rebound of Move by Adam Port and Strive featuring Malachi up to number 7, and thank God for the 52-week rule, because otherwise I have no faith that this would have actually fallen outside the top 10 otherwise, and really, I just hope it goes away soon. I mean, seriously, there's so many other songs on Kind Music you could be pushing right now. The opportunity for actual continued momentum is not really going anywhere now. But that rebound might also be because of the complete collapse of Heavy Love by Odotari down to number 8. Streaming is down, there's no radio support as expected, and yeah, no one's really getting on board with this for good reason. It's one of his worst charting songs. Not really the case for Slow Motion by Marshmello and the Jonas Brothers at number 9, which did have better radio, and again, it's sticking around a lot better than I expected, but the streaming is crap. This is probably going to be gone soon. Thank God for that too. The songs really soured on me. And on the notes of songs I forgot were even here, we have a debut in our top 10 that quite frankly completely slipped me by, but I should have expected. Think of Me by HUGEL, David Guetta, Kehlani, and Daecolm debuting at number 10. Now, just like Beautiful People, this one didn't debut as high as I think most people expected. The streaming was really good with this one, and it has decent sales, but surprisingly enough, the American public is starting to fall out of favor with David Guetta. And considering the quality of some of his recent material, I totally get why, and I'm really just glad that that Willie William collab didn't debut. It's absolutely terrible. But yeah, this isn't going to last in the top 10, but it's at least interesting to see here, and while it is disappointing that Afro House is still being something that David Guetta is considering at all, I'm at least happy that HUGEL is getting at least a little bit more consistent momentum. I can't complain that much. And in terms of avoiding specific disasters they shouldn't have charted here, our fallouts were also all bad songs. Wow, what is happening this week? I mean, outside of the complete flop of Dom Dollar and Kid Cudi's collaboration Forever, which is gonna absolutely miss the year-end list, and thank God that people are not on board with this. We also saw Messy by Lazewo and Montegem Ladrell by Mozzie, Atlas, and Itama MC both go away. I mean, it's nice to see both of those songs go away, even if they most likely will come back in the future, but the the lack of momentum moving forward is not exactly reassuring for their long-term success, and I can't complain either. Sadly, not really a ton to know in terms of our other movements. Tell You Straight by Jiggets fell down to 18 off of its big remix boost last week, and that doesn't remotely surprise me. It was only going to hold so well after that. And for some reason, despite the fact that it left at least a month ago, Kisses by Bless and Cameron Watson featuring BB Close returned to 24. And it's at least interesting in this case because the song itself is at 20 weeks on Hot Dance, and considering that the recurrent rules will most likely deny this from returning anytime soon, it really has to stick around the top 25 to have any chance at surviving past that, and given that the song's been really inconsistent recently, I don't really see that happening. Really good that it hit 20 weeks though, I'm not complaining at all. And speaking of greats, wow, these 3 debuts are really promising. Starting off with a complete surprise for me, number 21, In the Moment by RUFUS DU SOL.
Give me everything I need. I'm right where I'm supposed to be.
This was a huge and really welcome surprise for me, and probably the first case of this ever happening on Hot Dance, where a song that didn't initially chart on the album bomb Impact Week actually managed to debut later on. And in this case, it's interesting that it's from RUFUS DU SOL of all people. I mean, I'm not too surprised that this didn't debut initially. It really had to fight uphill against the entirety of the Brat remix album, and even with that, Inhale Exhale had other songs that were doing a lot better than this. But now it's finally here in the first case of this ever happening on Hot Dance as far as I can tell. But the main reason this probably debuted now is because of the big remix by Adriatic, which came out a month ago, but thanks to the remix album finally coming out for Inhale Exhale and it getting a big amount of streaming in advance, this actually managed to debut on Hot Dance for the first time ever. And man, I'm thrilled to see this here because this is one of my favorite songs on Inhale Exhale as is. The original is in that classic RUFUS DU SOL house style with those really stabby synths against a gorgeous atmosphere and some low-key driving grooves that really make the entire track really atmospheric and really enticing, with Tyrone delivering one of his better vocal performances in his mid-range, and again, that's his best range. I really hope he sticks to that moving forward. But what shocked me, the Adriatic remix, it actually might be even better than the original. It ramps up the percussion to have a lot more bass presence and actually hit pretty damn hard, more lean towards tech house, and it even includes a future techno drop at the end of the track, which surprisingly fit really well. And the smoother progressive house elements are kept intact, and even with all of that, there's a lot more presence and a lot more energy in this remix that I think the original was kind of lacking in a way. I honestly can get why the public was behind the remix a lot more. It's actually really interesting how well it really builds on the original track, and even if it is not all that different from the original, it's got enough elements to make it stand out and really improve upon a track that I already loved. So yeah, with the momentum this has got, I really hope it sticks around for another week on this chart. I'm not exactly complaining to see RUFUS DU SOL finally debut here again, and with songs of this quality, yeah, they really improved this chart, and I really hope that this sticks around. Both versions of this are genuinely fantastic. Let's see where they go. Number 17, Is It Real by Flume JPEGMAFIA featuring Ravyn Lenae.
Tell me how it feels. Now tell me, is it real?
And on a note of acts that are at least very welcome here, well, I would have at least said that about Flume, but after hearing the collaboration EP with JPEGMAFIA, I'm sorry, I was very underwhelmed by it. Not bad by any means, I can at least understand the appeal, and the first and last track I've at least kept around. They're both genuinely great songs, but with this, yeah, this was not one of the tracks that I really liked on the EP, and unfortunately, it is probably indicative of my problems with the EP as a whole. I mean, it's not bad by any means. I actually really like the wonky future trap percussion, and it does sound very cool, and the overall song is not badly produced by any means. Flume has a knack for making this sort of experimental sound actually more mainstream friendly, and this is no exception. And when you combine that with Ravyn Lenae's vocals that actually sound really nice on this track, I can at least understand the appeal there. Problem is, man, this feels like a waste of JPEGMAFIA. I mean, the song feels way too damn short as is, and there's not enough elements to really make this stand out on the EP in comparison to the opening and closing track, and again, it's not exactly all that interesting. And JPEGMAFIA just doesn't do any sort of vocal delivery here at all, being confined to backing vocals at best. And considering JPEGMAFIA is a really talented MC who has the potential to rap over these sorts of beats, that feels like a huge amount of wasted potential. I mean, it's just indicative of an EP that feels way too bland and sanitized for Flume standards. And while this isn't bad by any means, and again, I get the appeal, it's not actually all that bad, it's decent enough. When you compare it to track 1 or The Ocean Is Fake, which deserve much bigger pushes than this, yeah, I can't help but feel like a bit of a letdown, all I'm saying here. Number 10, Think of Me by HUGEL, David Guetta, Kehlani, and Daecolm.
We could be. Tell me honestly. Do you ever think of me?
Oh, just goddamn great. The last thing we needed right now, more Afro House gentrification from David Guetta. I mean, seriously, while I get that David Guetta's once a trend chase, and this has actually led to some decent success for him with both of this and Beautiful People doing decently well, the fact is, this feels really gross coming from him in a way that I really can't stand. And with songs like this, it's just proving that this scene is starting to get whitewashed in a way that I'm not really a fan of, even if in this case they at least got 2 artists of color on the track, so there's at least a little bit more reason for this to exist. And all of that's a damn shame, because this might be one of David Guetta's best songs in recent memory. I actually really like this. Now, there is an asterisk for that, considering that this song is basically just a HUGEL track with David Guetta on mastering duties, and seriously, it's really obvious at this point. The percussion feels a lot more smooth and in his sort of wheelhouse, and the song has a sort of atmosphere and vibe that you don't usually associate with David Guetta, especially with the vocalist on board. And in that case, HUGEL actually really delivered here. There's a nice warm atmosphere with some genuinely subtle percussion that sounds really nice, and the vocal interplay between Kehlani and Daecolm is actually really damn interesting, especially on the chorus where they both actually play off each other really well for the sort of love-struck yearning where both ask if the other person thinks about them at any point in their life. And with this being the sort of depressing sound that works for Afro House, it kind of comes together in a really nice way. But even with that, I'll give credit to where it's due. I can at least understand why Guetta is even credited on this track, because his desire to make for a more polished and mainstream sounding version of certain genres ends up surprisingly working in this case. He's got the sort of mixing style that actually makes this more palatable for me, and doesn't even have the sort of mixing problems that I'd usually associate with most of HUGEL's solo work. So honestly, I get why he's on board, even if his presence is absolutely not felt at all. I can at least understand in the minor details why they got him on board for this one. So yeah, good song, no complaints here for me. I actually really liked it. And moving on to dance pop, and shock, nothing interesting happened here, although there is the possibility of a lot of this being swept away by Pink Pantheress next week, and I can only hope that happens. Abracadabra is still comfortably at number 1 for Lady Gaga, and outside of that, we had Vanish Into You by Lady Gaga return at 13, and for some ungodly reason, Too Much by Dove Cameron is back at 15, despite exiting from its peak. Seriously, this song's run has been really inconsistent at best. It can go recurrent any time now, and sadly, really only dance sales had a lot happening here because dance streaming was a goddamn dead zone this week. I mean, Abracadabra by Lady Gaga is number 1 here too. Again, it's strong in all formats. I get why it's sticking around at number 1 for so long on dance pop. And the only other story is Latch by Disclosure and Sam Smith being knocked off in favor of Bad Romance by Lady Gaga at 14. For God's sake, can we just get something that's actually new and stable here, please? But for dance sales, really, Lady Gaga had a surprisingly good week here too. I mean, Abracadabra is number 1, as you'd expect, but we also had Poker Face and Bad Romance return at number 10 and number 14 respectively, and they're both really welcome. And man, it's really nice that they're here because a lot of the other returns are all over the place here. On one hand, it's really not good to see Blue as Flame by Selena Gomez and Benny Blanco return to 15 out of nowhere, or Forever Young by David Guetta, Alphaville, and Ava Max back at 13. But along with that, we got the radiant return of A Sky Full of Stars by Coldplay with production from the late Avicii back at number 12, and it's always good to see this song here. It's one of my favourite dance hits of 2014. Oh, also Don't Stop by Prosper actually gained up to number 6. This song's success has been really welcome for me. For tech house of this style, I'm really glad to see it stick around, and it is one of the best songs in that style, so yeah, no complaints from me at all. But that leaves a solid debut that's Honestly, not all that surprising, being number 11, Lick by SIDEPIECE.
Pop yo pop pop, oi ladies pop yo pop yo pop pop, oi ladies pop yo pop yo pop 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 pop.
It feels like it's been ages since we even talked about SIDEPIECE on this channel. I mean, the last time was back in 2023 with that really misguided and not good Our Millie remix with Lil Wayne. So to see them debut on Dance Sales and release a song through Toolbox Records, it at least gave me a little bit to really be excited for. And yeah, this is also really damn solid. Not really a ton to say here. It's more leaning on the side of bounce with that heavy bass, the really silly chopped up female vocal samples that add some quirky touches, and the percussion that allows for this track to really build across its length. I get why it's gotten a big amount of sales in terms of that regard. And really, it's the sort of track that doesn't give me a whole lot to really analyze. It's pretty straightforward by modern toolroom standards, and even if it's not at the level of their best songs at their peak, I at least can understand why sales are on board with this. This has a lot of mainstream DJ appeal, and I can see this doing decently well here. So yeah, pretty damn solid, no complaints here. Not the most interesting song in the world, but more tech house like this that actually tries to be at least a little bit more distinct, I can at least appreciate that. And finally, we got Dance Mix Show Airplay. Surprisingly, a really quiet week, but it might be one of the rare cases where all the debuts are really good. That's at least exciting. But in a wild moment, and in the third case of this happening this year, and the second case for this artist this year, we had a song last at number 1 for 3 weeks yet again with Beautiful People by David Guetta and Sia at number 1. Again, it's really disappointing to see this sort of gentrified Afro house be rewarded with success on the radio, but given that it's David Guetta, I'm not exactly all that surprised, and given the names involved, it is a nostalgia bait sort of track. I'm not exactly expecting this to stick at number 1 for another week, and really, it's one of his better songs in recent memory. I can't be too upset about it, and especially considering it denied I Follow Rivers by Tiesto featuring Ocean hitting number 1, currently at number 2, and with this one, it's losing on spins. It had its run at number 1 on Media Base just way too early for it to actually impact. Thank Christ that this is gonna miss out on hitting number 1, even if it will make the year-end list, unfortunately. And sadly, the losses in spins also negatively affected Lost in Loving You by Artie and Lewis 3 at number 3. Again, there's a new Artie single being pushed to radio, and given that this is long peaked and has become an easy top 3 hit that I don't think anyone expected, I'm not exactly surprised nor complained to see this go. It had a really good run. But then there's the added potential of the Say My Name remix by Morgan Seatree featuring Florence and the Machine at number 4, and in this case, it's rising up again really consistently, and with songs falling around it, this has the potential to get to number 1 soon. I can't complain about that. But what's more concerning will probably be the song to actually hit number 1 next week against all my better judgment or taste. Yep, it's The Less I Know The Better by Mal P at number 5. It's gaining big on spins, and at the rate it's going, this could hit number 1 quite comfortably. And while I'm happy for Mal P for actually getting a song that's consistently successful, when the song is complete dog shit and does not prove that he needs to stick around, I'm not exactly happy about this either. It's not a good song, nor a good remix at all. Hell, I've got more hope behind Wrap Yourself Around Me by DOD featuring North at number 6, where it's getting pretty considerably. I can see this hitting the top 5 next week, and that's a huge win for me. The song is growing on me at a pretty decent rate. But now onto the important matter at hand that I don't think anyone expected would actually get here. Crossfire by Frank Walker and Alexander Stewart is actually sticking steady at number 7, and this is interesting because it's at 20 weeks, and given that it's not really losing any spins at all currently, it's holding pretty damn steady, all things considered, on Media Base, which is a really big surprise in the good way. I'm expecting this to actually survive past the 20-week rule, one of the rare tracks that's done this, and considering that hasn't even hit the top 5 in terms of peak, that is really bizarre to me in a way that I'm really not complaining about either, because the song is great. Finally, there's Don't Wake Me Up by James Hype at number 8. Expect this to go higher. It's got consistent success, really good to see. Unfortunately, also the case for Dreaming by Dom Dollar featuring Daya at number 9, although in this case the song isn't that bad, it's grown back on me a little bit. And finally, Euphoria by Armin van Buuren, Norma Jean Martin, Lawrence and Alok is down to number 10 as a fall this week, and considering that it really peaked really hard weeks ago, expect this to be out of the top 10 quite comfortably next week and fall pretty damn fast. It had a really good run, I can't complain. And speaking of which, we didn't see a ton of fall-offs, although it is notable that we still had a massive one with Visions of You by Halo falling victim to the 20-week rule. And again, this song's run was insane to me. I really hope more solo tracks from Hayla actually come through because of this song's success. We could really use more quality from her right now. And that small list of debuts meant that we didn't really see a ton of falls across the board here. And most of the ones that did fall were songs that were continuing to lose or songs that pop Airplay just threw out really damn fast. In the latter case, outside of Euphoria in the top 10, we had Hot and Mysterious by Austin Mills and Carlo at 17, Into the Blue by Will Sass and Camille at 23, and Never Walk Alone by Blondish and Stevie Appleton at 33. All exiting naturally, all really good songs. I can't exactly complain about them going. And in the former, Pink Pony Club by Chapel Roan at 27 and Luther by Kendrick Lamar and SZA at 39. I'm honestly shocked that both of these were even considered for this chart at all, considering they're not exactly the tracks that you'd expect to get a lot of mixed show support, but here we are, and I don't expect either of them to stick around in the next couple of weeks. Just saying there. But man, those jumps really made up for it, and it's really telling that a lot of them are in the top 20 and likely to hit the top 10 soon, and they're a bit all over the place in terms of quality. I mean, yes, you've got Anxiety by Doechii at 15, and Never Forget You by Afrojack at 14, At Least Balanced Out by Surrender by Alesso and Becky Hill at 20, and thankfully Come With Me by Major League DJs and Georgia Smith at 13. At the rate this is going to hit the top 10 and make the year-end list. Thank God for that. And outside of that, besides the random jump for Messy by Lola Young up to 21, this song's been all over the place it's run, and that remix is not helping. We had two debuts from last week also see big jumps, both really good, with Angels for Each Other by Martin Garrix and Arijit Singh up to 29, and Something New by GT Office, Matthew Topper, and PT up to 35. And both of these are pushing above their artists' current expectations for me. I'm not complaining about them sticking around, even if they probably won't have massive runs, let's be real here. Oh, and speaking of which, one of our two debuts thankfully falls under my eligibility rules for covering it, and I get to skip over it. And in this case, it's a great song actually debuting here against all my better expectations, being All I Know by Rudimental and Khalid at 32. Look, I expect this to have a decent run considering that lesser known drum and bass tracks are actually doing pretty damn well on Dance Airplay this year, but really, considering Rudimental has been a really inconsistent name on this chart at best and has struggled to cross over to the US, I'm not expecting this to have a fantastic run, all things considered. Although I would like to be proven wrong there, this is a great song. And on the topic of great, our final debut this week is finally number 37, Leave the Light On by Please and Thank You and x.o.anne. Okay, so in terms of slightly under the radar Dance Airplay regulars who do decently well year after year, Please and Thank You are one of the ones that I actually find myself liking a lot more, with their last shining song Turning Tides unfortunately underperforming really damn hard, but being pretty damn good, if admittedly a little bit derivative of better house songs in this style. So to see this song already getting far more streams than that one, despite coming out only in March, gave me a lot to be excited about, and yeah, this is really damn good as well. In fact, I might like this even more than Turning Tides. More of a shift towards that sort of progressive tech house side that John Summer has been doing recently, and Please and Thank You are really credible in that regard with those plucky synths against a much more spacious and warm atmosphere, and the more downbeat vibes with the pianos and the guitars across the track. They sound legitimately good. It actually creates a really nice summer vibe that I can see why this is actually getting embraced by Dance Airplay stations recently. That being said, the big part of why I like this so much is x.o.anne, and between this and her telecast collab, we need more of her on this chart because seriously, she's got the sort of belting vocal delivery that reminds me a lot of Hayla, and while I don't expect she will be anywhere near as big as Hayla has been nowadays, she's got the sort of momentum going up with these collaborations on Dance Airplay that are doing decently well, where I can hope that she actually gets a mainstream crossover onto Hot Dance. She's got the vocal delivery to absolutely get there. So yeah, really damn credible. I really like the production and x.o.anne absolutely delivers. This is a really solid song. I wouldn't mind seeing this stick around, even if considering how much Turning Tides underperformed. I'm not exactly hopeful this is going to be a hit, but yeah, this is great regardless. And man, that ends off a really goddamn good week for the debuts here. And look, for worst of the week, look, it's a decent song, but I'm going to give it to Is It Real by Flume JPEGMAFIA featuring Ravyn Lenae on the back of that lost potential. It could have been so much better. But in terms of the best, surprisingly, this was actually really easy to nail down too, being In the Moment by RUFUS DU SOL. Both versions of this would have easily gotten Best of the Week regardless, so it's a win either way for me, and I'm really hoping that this sticks around. It's goddamn great to see RUFUS DU SOL back on this chart. Next week, well, I was gonna say there was the possibility of a Pink Pantheress album bomb to make dance pop actually interesting for once, but Calvin Harris came through with a song that's absolutely doing fucking amazing on streaming, to the point where I can see it actually making a huge run for the top 3 on Hot Dance, and really, considering the song's quality, it could really help a really weak top 10 there right now. But yeah, that's all for this episode of an analysis of dance. See you next time.